Well, there we go. Welcome everyone to our December 18th, a week before Christmas update on the Lifeboat Academy. And we have a big crew with us today, which is really great. And we have some exciting news to share today as well. So let's just get started. If this is your first time joining us on YouTube, then we are the Lifeboat Academy, and our goal is to create and prove a model of resilience and regeneration at the person, place, and community level. So for us, a lifeboat is a personal, local, place-based network, resilience network, that you build with your own, out of your own friends, colleagues, relations, and neighbors, to help you and each other get through whatever might be coming. And ultimately, our goal is to create a network of lifeboats, all linked together so that we can provide mutual support wherever we might be on the planet. And we start with some grounding and a time for introductions. And the grounding is we always start by bringing the land in and acknowledging the land, because the land was here before we were, and we only exist because the land is here. And so everything that we do, we center the land, and we um, acknowledge the wisdom traditions of many indigenous cultures, that remind us that we are embedded in a network of relations, an ongoing conversation that goes from the tiniest little bacteria in the soil up to the biggest blue whale, and includes the air and the water and the rocks and everything, ties us together through the land and our experience here on this planet. And so in acknowledging that, we also acknowledge the debt of gratitude and obligation that we have to indigenous cultures that have kept that wisdom alive when Western culture has really forgotten. And we desperately need to remember right now. And so we are so grateful that the indigenous peoples of the world have kept this knowledge alive and are still willing to share it with us, even after a long and very troubled history of less than equal relations, less than respectful relations between colonizers and the indigenous communities. So in saying that, I also tip my hat specifically to the WSÁNEĆ, who are part of the Coast Salish peoples, who have been stewarding the land that I am on and the land around here in the Salish Sea for time immemorial. And in acknowledging that, we also acknowledge that we have an obligation to make our relationships right, to do what we can to bring things back into balance and harmony, with our human neighbors and our more than human neighbors. So with that acknowledgement, we'll go around the circle and give everyone a chance to introduce yourself and say, what is it about the Lifeboat Academy that has your attention at the moment? What are you curious about? And the circle as I see it is Roland, Ronnie, Barbara, April, Pamela, and me. And I will type that in as I pass over to Roland to say, Roland, what has your attention right now?
I was just reflecting on our use of words, and we talk about the land a lot. And we also have in our introduction place. And so I was wondering how do those two fit together? And I think currently my sense of what we mean by land is what is enduring, what is always there, and place is how we bring things together, sort of place as this point in time that we call now, and everything that comes together in that point. That's what I'm thinking about. Over to Ronnie.
Um, I'm really excited that we have a six-person group here today, and I'm curious to see how our seasonal wrap-up and yearly planning these next few weeks rolls out, and who might show up to be involved and have a say in what happens because it's definitely a big transition time for all of us, and also just everyone generally with the holidays and the new year. So I'm curious what new developments there may be moving into 2024. Over to Barbara.
I'm grateful to be with you all today, and I am very grateful to be where I am right now, which is on Stalo land on the mighty Fraser River, just under the skirts of Qualshan, also known as Mount Baker. And it's solstice week. It's solstice week, and I'm very mindful of that right now and feeling the circularity and the cycularity. I'm not sure. I'm making up words of the season, the big wheel turning, and all of that. My own indigeneity is Celtic, and have always felt very connected to the cycles of the land and the season. So my awareness, my attention is very much with this, and it's not locational. It seems to be generic to the West Coast, Northern Hemisphere, Pacific Shore regionalism. And I feel a part of all of that because I'm familiar and have had a life on this part of the planet for quite some time, most of this life. Yeah, so just feeling really, really present in time and space in a kind of a non-local, non-time dimensional way. Not much intelligence there, but it's true. It's all true what I just said. And gratitude underwrites all of it. Can't remember. I think April. Yeah.
I guess that's me. I'm coming to you from the ancestral unceded territory of the Siuslaw Nation on the Sunshine Coast. I can look corner-wise from my local beach and sort of see the edge of Pender Island, which always makes me feel connected. I really am interested right now that Lifeboat Academy has had my attention for about the last 6 years. But at this very minute, the attention is in a state of curiosity about the planning for the charrette. And so that's where my ears and eyes are this morning. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all on a Monday morning. And over to Pamela.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if I've met you before, Barbara. Nice to see you here. Yeah, good provocation about land and place, because there is something there. I think of the one, as you say, being that not a steady state, but that which is solidly there, and place as being kind of a human construct. I'm not quite sure. It makes me realize that I hadn't thought about that distinction before. I'm glad to be here at this point where new things are seeming to happen with the Lifeboat Academy, and I'm really curious about that. I'm just coming off of a kind of intense period of, like, I triple booked myself and am just needing to chill into the new year, and decided to show up for this because I could, and I didn't feel I had to. And I have a genuine fondness for the lifeboat crew and the metaphor, the project, and real curiosity about what the next steps are going to be. Not certain about my own place in it, because there's just so damn much happening. And so I'll just go from there.
Oh, already so fantastic. I am, I think, interested in, it's kind of the place versus land, versus being, just a construct. But I'm thinking a lot about fractals and nested things that are nested. Barbara, you were talking about the seasonality, and this week I had this aha that there's the shape of the year, and then there's the shape of the week, and there's the shape of the day, and there's some coherence between, and one of the things that I live by is an Annie Dillard quote about the way you live your days is, of course, the way you live your life. Um, so there's something ennobling about thinking that each day is this mini lifespan, this mini season, and also I think that nestedness in terms of almost impossible to trace connections between what happens in circle, where we're really thinking about that kind of inner life. How do I want to be? How do I want to show up? And the external practical, like when people show up and things seem to come together. And how just all those that kind of cycle and cycle, wheel in wheel, inner to outer, big to small, all churning away at the same time, which is very exciting. Well, fantastic. So we'll start with just some quick updates. We are trying to move towards a hibernation period. And so we're intentionally working with the seasonality of things and wrapping up our 2023, looking back, reminding ourselves of what happened, and making our plans for how we launch 2024 in a good way. And so this week has been relatively light in terms of hours worked, but really, really big in terms of steps forward. We had a meeting with Joey Hussein on last Tuesday, who is a person who is new on Pender, has been here about a year and a half, has a really strong connection with Whistler Blackcomb, and with Whistler, and is looking to kind of land here on Pender, and also has very similar values in terms of wanting to build what comes next. I think might be a way of summarizing it, with an awareness of the challenges that we face. Anyhow, we had a get to know you meeting on Tuesday. He came to the farm. It was a lovely, lovely experience. He's a very charismatic person, very easy to be with. Had a great conversation. We told him about what we were thinking about doing with the Lifeboat Academy, and he's interested. He gets it. And we have tentative plans to get together again in January. And and I guess the part that I didn't mention is he is also connected to and is a person who could be a social mortgage provider, and seemed very interested and willing in helping us connect with the people who can make the Lifeboat Academy a go, by providing that sort of social mortgage. I think my takeaway was he seemed to think this was an easily fundable project, and that he liked the ideas that we were putting forward. And I'll pass over to Roland. Is anything you want to add about our time with Joey?
Well, just echoing a lot about my impressions, also were that he's just nice to be around, and also he shared a few ideas that I feel were really valuable, and was generous with his perspective on things. So I
Mhm.
really appreciated that, and I'm looking forward to more opportunities to be able to hang out and chat
Mhm.
and share.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was he was asking really good questions, and like questions that indicated he totally was tracking what we're talking about,
And I think
and offered really good insights. I think that, yeah, go ahead.
and that was also gratifying was that he got it, and what we showed him made sense, and getting that kind of feedback is really good and really valuable.
Yeah. And I think he also is he using our original language, I think he's willing to be an ambassador and to help make some of that, do some of that translation work. He knows what other people are looking for, and because he's one of those people who, you know, gets lots of requests. Um, so yeah, it's a really positive about that.
I just wanted
Oh
to
yeah, go
give
ahead.
some more context about who Joey is. His family they have a foundation called the Hussein Foundation. And over the last few years, they've been actively divesting from other endeavors and investing in like ecological protection and ecological projects. So they're the kind of people we've been wanting to connect with. So he's connected to them, and all of his family members on the board seem they're just really forward thinking, progressive people, you know, involved in various good activities that we all support. And he also, I'm sure, has a large network of similar people that he could potentially connect us to also. So it's a really great connection to have. So yeah, very exciting.
Mhm. Well, and the second event this week was we met with John Kay, who is one of the co-founders of an organization called Realize Strategies. They are a co-op that was created by nonprofits to provide consulting and support services to co-ops, and I'm trying to remember his basically kind of alternative economy ventures. Um, I'm stumbling on my words right now, but because he was using it in the meeting. But again, he's somebody who has deep experience in helping nonprofits and co-ops around things like legal structure, accounting, tax implications, also strategic design, strategic planning and implementation. So he's got deep experience working with our kind of project. And we met with him specifically to talk about our articles of incorporation and the question about B Corp versus legal B Corp versus certified B Corp versus co-op. And he gave us the finance and fundraising circle. He gave us a sort of an introductory explanation of the range of legal organizational structures that we can pick from. We told him what we were trying to do. Again, he got it right away. He was asking really good, very specific questions. And his recommendation is we're looking at either a legal B Corp or something that's called a triple C, a community contribution company. And they both have very similar characteristics. Basically, B Corp wins over co-op because it's easier legally to raise capital investment with a B Corp than it is with a co-op. And because the main advantage of a co-op is the one member, one vote egalitarian structure, but we've already done that with our sociocracy bylaws. So we have an egalitarian one member, one vote approach, which is nested inside the B Corp. And so anyhow, this was, again, it was really great affirmation. We're on the right track. He thinks everything that we're doing, he gets it, and he thinks it's totally doable in terms of, you know, setting up the structure the right way. He's agreed to review the articles of incorporation just to, you know, it's not a legal review. It's not, you know, he's not a lawyer, but he'll be looking at it to give us his feedback on it. And then we're going to be doing some final sifting and winnowing about the Triple C versus the B Corp. And anyhow, it's also very encouraging. It's basically a huge vote of confidence in our legal structure and the possibilities there. And also a good connection, because he and his company are the kind of people that could be providing us really valuable professional services, including things like bookkeeping, accounting, tax reporting, all of that kind of stuff. So again, a huge step forward there. And again, I'll pass over to Roland and Ronnie. Just, is there anything that you want to add on the John K part? Oh, and actually, one of the interesting things that he let us know is that investment in this project can qualify for RFP and TFS status. So it can be used as a retirement investment, and it can also be used as part of a tax-free savings plan. So there are tax advantages to people who invest. And we also had a really great conversation about how to protect the land in perpetuity, which we think we're going to be able to do by inserting a dissolution clause, so that in the event that the Lifeboat Academy is not viable and we have to disband for some reason, we can hold the Stewardship Council, or in a similar way to having a B Corp, where it's the triple bottom line, it's not just the financial interest. We can hold the board to selling to the most qualified candidate who will maintain the social benefits of the property, not the highest bidder. So we can legally demand that if we have to sell the property, it's sold to a like-minded individual or organization, and that we don't have to accept the highest price. Likewise, we want to put in some restrictions around debt encumbrance, so that we don't ever get into a situation where we're forced to sell the land. And again, we think this is all very doable. So that, Bella and Ronnie, anything that you want to add? Okay. And then out of the blue, Steph Jackson, the current owner of the property, came for a visit. She was playing a gig on Sunday, and she came on Friday just for some downtime. And we got to hang out with her on Saturday night, and I got to show her how to spin, which was me remembering how to spin from like 3 years ago, which was the last time I did it. And it was just fun. It was, she's so lovely, and she's our kind of people. And it was just really, really nice. Zelda went, and when she pulled in, Zelda went over and greeted her at the car and brought her to me on the farm. And Steph said, well, I could just tell Zelda wanted me to be this way. So I came with her, and here we are. So yeah, it was just really, really a lovely visit. I'm hoping that there are more again soon. And I think we got a lot of reassurance. She's really committed to this project, and I think expressed a willingness to work with us on the timeline, try to be flexible with us on the timeline. Again, she has her own pressures. So part of what we are taking on is we want to keep the timeline as tight as possible, because she's actually carrying a burden for us right now. She's actually carrying some of a lot of the stressors to enable us to do this right now. So as soon as we can put together some way of relieving that burden from her shoulders, that would be great. But she's basically said she's committed, and she wants this to work, and we'll find a way of making it work. So anything you want to add, Roland?
I think that was well said in a nutshell. It was just really lovely to be able to spend time with her. I mean, we've had conversations over the phone and over Zoom, but it is different having an opportunity of being able to host someone on, well, I guess hosting maybe not the right word, because she's part of the farm also. So just being able to spend actual physical time together was really lovely. And really I think it has inspired both Ben and myself to return to spinning wool that we haven't done in several years. I got my drop spindle out to continue making my little merino thread. So a big thank you just for that, for being able to bring us back to this lovely meditative activity that we enjoy.
Mhm. So that's it, just that this week. And in terms of next steps, we're already in a little bit of a back and forth with Joey around sending him some materials, and then we'll be reconnecting in January, we hope, and see where that goes. Likewise, I've already sent our articles of incorporation to John Kay, and with a no stress, no pressure. Let us know what you think on the articles of incorporation. And I didn't mention, I also feel like there's, again, not only can he help us in some of that administrative stuff, I think that the Lifeboat Academy may also be able to help him with Realize Strategies, because I would not be surprised if they would want a place where they could bring some of their teams to do some work in a nice retreat center. So again, there's possibilities for the future there as well. And we're going to be continuing to have office hours this week, 10 to noon, for anybody who wants to show up. It'll be our co-working time, but it's also a time that people can just drop in, and we'll put the link to office hours to the Zoom. We can put that in the YouTube description, I think, to make that available. We'll make sure people have it in a way that is also where we don't get spammed. So on to, actually, let's go back. Is there anything to add on before we go into the planning from Roland or Ronnie? All right. So planning, that's been our main focus. One of the things that we did was crystallized what it is, the focus of our January planning, the planning that we're doing right now, is what is the best we can do with available resources in 2024. I guess I didn't write that, but it's given where we are and what we have, and the vision that we have together. So yeah, where we are. So it's being clear on what are our resources now that we're a year into it. Where are we heading? How do we refine some of those the big goals that we have and turn them into an action plan for 2024, some annual goals, and then working collaboratively, kind of tasking it out to different teams to figure out how do we get towards where we want to be. And that's the whole point of the work that we're doing in January. And in terms of concrete steps in that direction, we've sent out the date picker for the charrette. We're looking at the 20th and 21st of January, which would be a complete year from an exact year from our first charrette. Or I want to say the 16th and 17th in February. It's around, Ronnie, do you know for sure?
The 17th and 18th.
17th and 18th.
Yeah.
And partly we're looking for people's availability. And again, we'll have the link to the poll. If anybody is interested in attending, you can click on the poll and let us know your availability. It will be a hybrid event, so there will be an online version and an in-person part. And we'll make sure that even if people can't be here in person, that they can still contribute. We're looking for people's availability, and we're also trying to figure out on our side if the January date gives us enough time to do the prep work and the engagement work up till then. So that's one of the decisions that we'll be making probably this week about what the actual dates are going to be for January or February. And we also created a Miro board, which see if I can I'm so pleased with it. I just want to show it. So we've already started to put together the activities and the exercises that we'll be going through. And so we decided to build it from the start on Miro, and that'll give everyone, it increases our opportunities for collaboration, because now we can even engage all of our many facilitator friends to take a look at it and shape the process itself. And then we have that way of having a one-stop shop, because we're intending to provide different levels of engagement. So we're going to have some light activities for some people who are kind of just maybe hanging out around the edge, and we want to just bring them in a little. And for the people that have kind of been in a little, we have some deeper engagement activities to try to get more opportunities for them to give us perspectives. So anyhow, we've also started gathering data on what kind of impact we've had in 2023. Of course, we're keeping the bar low. It's been a very developmental year, but we want to walk our talk. And so we want to look back and see what have we actually accomplished against our goals, and including our social impacts our social benefits that we're trying to create. And in terms of next steps, we'll be setting the dates for, what the specific activities are. We'll be gathering more data for our annual review, which will include financial data and also how we've done against our plan. So, what did we say we were going to do and what have we actually done? And that was it. So those are our next steps with the planning. And Roland, anything that you want to add?
That was very thorough. Thanks.
And Ronnie, anything? All right. So that brings us to our wrap up of what we're going to be looking at this week. We're going to be finishing up on all of that data gathering and trying to pull things together, so that we can actually look at, pace ourselves for next year based on how we've developed this year. And we'll probably be doing some light outreach before maybe this week, but then really we'll be prepping ourselves for being able to enter January, where we start doing some specific outreach around specific activities to get people's feedback on the plan. And then we will also be wrapping things up, because we are trying to walk our talk all the way across the board. And so the goal is for the 12 days of Christmas to be downtime, reflection time, hibernation time. And so part of what we'll be doing this week is kind of wrapping things up. So that brings us to the end of the updates that we want to include. But now it's time to go around and just do questions, comments, thoughts once through the circle. Ronnie and Roland have had a chance already, so we'll just jump to Barbara. And again, you can always pass and we can always come back to you, but just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to share your thoughts, reactions, or questions. Barbara, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Ben, for the great presentation, and Roland and Ronnie for the teamwork and just being there with all that you bring. I'm super interested in this whole process. I'm feeling quite inspired by the connections that you've just outlined, that have just been made. That, to me, that kind of rightness, it's just a confirmation of alignment of the work and the path that is being created and followed at the same time. My interest right now is in the tools, in the social mortgages, is the conversation that I started a few months ago after meeting with you folks on the farm, and feeling and experiencing the the truth of the land and the emerging relationship with it there. And so my tech writer brain goes to the documentation tools. So I'm super interested in the actual mortgage thing, that document, that the entity of it. So I'm hoping to have a little bit of time to unpack. I have a few questions about that. So today, I hope there's some space for that today. If not, whenever there is. I had some questions around the relationship with the landowner that you've shared already today. And I also am interested in, very interested in participating in the planning charrette. And what can I bring? Like what concrete resources and assistance can I bring to that process? Also to be poked at a little bit and discussed. And I just feel like some kind of, like with this particular turning, with the solstice, with the returning of the light, there's something afoot. I feel it energetically. There's something happening. I'm not going to go all metaphysical and shit on you. It's just a sense of it. Like I don't really have left brain words for it. It's just a feeling that there's a current of some kind in motion. And so I'm attentive and attending with that as best I can with December fog and hibernation brain and all of that kind of energy. Check.
And it's over to April then.
Well, I said the last time we met that I think what we're seeing is the results of walking the walk, talking the talk, muddling through at times, glimpsing the fog that rolls in and out with these kind of endeavors, and celebrating the ability to do the fine teamwork that has gone on in this project pretty much from the start. So experiencing that is really fun for me. I also like the holiday card that you showed at the end. And I'm excited about the mural board, which I took a quick look at this morning, but I think that it has gathered elements that are incredibly central and important to all of this work. So well done in terms of expressing that. I'm excited about the wanting to be on the planning of the charrette more intimately, I guess. Yeah, and I think where we are at this point and the things that have been updated on just really shows that everything takes longer than you think it's going to, that development has its own pace. And last week, Ben and I were talking about the fact you can't push a rope. Recognize the rope for what it is, give it a little tug, get your friends to tug it, but pushing it doesn't actually get anywhere except tangle up the rope. So remembering that, I have to remember that, and remember that the feeling of how much effort I might be putting in doesn't necessarily pull on the rope. Sometimes I am trying to make things happen that aren't ready to happen, or I'm just at the wrong place in the process at the wrong time. But I really like what I'm seeing, and yeah, the fruits. Even though it's a funny time of years for fruit to be appearing on the trees that have been planted, the more than saplings now, that is what I see. And over to Pamela.
I'm delighted to hear about this foundational work setting into the way it is. It's wonderful, wonderful news, great connections. And yeah, a big surprise to me. I'm just delighted to see that this is what you're going into 2024 with. Yes, definitely would like to be around for the charrette if possible. I'm tugged between things that are happening here, and I'm also really super aware of balls that have been dropped during this last uh, period. I'm always seeing like, oh well, how do we make these connections? And I'm not facilitating it in the way that I have thought that I might. But so it goes, and on into 2024. It's very hard not to get buzzed about those connections and making new ones. And there is stuff happening, as you know, with Regenerate Cascadia that's located specifically in this area. And Barbara, I'm just across the water from you. I can see Mount Baker straight on. And so I'm in the southeast coast of Vancouver Island, not far from Pender. And there's movement afoot to bring the Cascadia energy definitely into formation here, as well as a couple of other things that are happening on the ground with the watershed and local watershed. And somehow, like, they are all related. The work that's happening around those things, I really feel have a dovetail with the lifeboat metaphor, and I do not know exactly how we get those gears rolling around and linking with each other, but it's something that seems to me just part of the same. I mean, it is part of the same ecosystem on all the different levels that you can use that as a metaphor in the reality form. So anyway, this is super good news for 2024. And gee, Ronnie, do you kind of wish you were still in the Pacific Northwest? Maybe not, but
Well,
oh,
I
golly.
do, and I'm so jealous that Ben and Roland got to hang out with Steph finally after all this time, and I missed it. So,
Wow.
but it's okay. These things happen.
Mhm. Yeah, well, and I think that's these things happen, right? And sort of there's something about, and I think a lot of our circle talk lately has been, or probably for a long time, is for me, I've been thinking about what's the way wu way, what's the effort that supports effortlessness. And like, none of this happens if you don't do something, but at the same time, what you do is not a complete determinant of what happens. It's all planting seeds is a really great metaphor, right? Not all seeds germinate, and you account for that, right? You kind of overplant a little and plant in different ways, and you attend to the sprouts when they sprout, right? And sometimes it's a week, and sometimes it's 2 weeks, and it all depends on different factors and who it. So yeah, this is all very exciting. Oh, and also I have to touch wood and do my anti-jinx thing, and it's all very tentative. I will be so much more comfortable when there's a check in the bank kind of thing, but still all of the signs are pointing in a really good direction. And so we've done our update, and generally speaking, what we do is we upload a recording of the update part, but we also do some editing. And I think in this case, we'll do some editing, so we'll have the update and we can have some questions and discussion. And I'm not sure what people's time looks like today. But generally we segue into a sort of work session, co-working time, and we already have some questions for discussion that have come up. So what I'd like to propose is that we go once through where everyone can just say, what are you up for? There, no guilt, no shame if you need to go. You know, you can stay as long as you want to, and you can leave when you need to. I'm committed to being here and hosting through at least 11:30, and probably till 12 if we need to. And so how long are you here for, and what would you have primarily on your agenda? And I do have Barbara I've noted, actually both Barbara, Pamela, and April, things that are agenda items, talking about the social mortgage, talking about charrette planning, and talking about how we link to the larger ecosystem. So those are three conversations that have already been noted. So once around, what are you in for, and what's on your agenda? Roland, over to you.
I am interested and available to keep going until about 11:30, and then I will, if the discussion is continuing, I will gracefully step away at that point. Over to Ronnie.
I am available and happy to be here until further notice. So whenever that changes, I will make it known. But I'm here for now. Over to Barbara, I think.
Yes, thank you. I'm good till noon Pacific time, and yeah, I won't take any more time than that.
And I'm good until 11:30, but I would like also to engage later in the week if there's some opportunities to do that. So I'll check on that. And over to Pamela.
Mainly, I wouldn't want to miss anything that is relevant to what you're thinking of with linkages and so on. But my inclination is to leave at 11:30. I'm really trying to keep my computer time down for the rest of this hibernating cycle. So I'll stay till 11:30.
Awesome.
Great that you have this kind of circle going around for this sort of thing. It's I'm going to keep this in mind. Excellent idea.
Yep. It's actually I am preparing a presentation as part of our community, the Southern Gulf Islands Community Justice Group, to go to all four of the what do they call them? The outer Gulf Islands, not including Salt Spring, but on handy ways to use a circle in a variety of situations, and this is one of them. So great, we've got until 11:30, everyone here until 11:30, and then a reduced crew until 12 or later. And I think I would like to start with sort of the charrette planning. And in part, I think we can nest some of those linkages. One of the things that, and also April, to your question, so we will be we will be doing co-working time on Zoom between 10 and noon for the rest of the week. And that's where we'll be. Generally, what we do is we start with a huddle. If there's anything that we need to talk through or work through together, we do that. And then we also will work on individual tasks. So we'll kind of be logged in, but off doing our own thing sometimes and come back together until we feel like, okay, now everyone has something they can work on their own, and off we go. So that's the format for them. And this is something I haven't really talked over with anybody else, but as I've been doing some of the prep work for the charrette, one of the questions that comes up is, how do we want to define our functional areas? And we have an existing format of, that was proposed at last year's charrette, morphed a little bit as we were trying to implement things, and has stayed the same since last May. And it's a good time to be thinking again about what those areas are. And one of the open questions has been, how does our compass fit with our functional areas? And if people haven't seen has everyone seen the compass? I will bring that up because that's just that's the quickest way. Actually, Ronnie, can you bring it up and then share screen?
Yes, I will find it quickly.
Cool. So anyhow, the reason that is relevant here is that I think one of the next steps. So we've outlined some of the activities on the Miro board, and a little bit is just lining up how much time do we need, when do these things happen, you know, some just logistical planning. But then conceptually, what I was thinking is we have some interest groups forming around what we're doing. And we have some interest, and I'm not saying these are mutually exclusive, but there is interest around the farming part of it, the physical, what happens on the property in terms of what do we grow and plant and that kind of planning. We also have a lot of interest around the network aspect of what we're doing. So how does the campus at Spalding Valley Farm anchor in a broader network, and where's that kind of mutual aid, mutual support? Cool, fantastic. So this is something that Ronnie put together to try to provide an overview, because we have all of these different aspects of things that we're working on. But the four kind of main blobs are the food sovereignty, food stuff, the land stewardship in terms of healthy ecosystems. The reclaiming the commons really has a lot to do with the transition to a fair economy. So it's really rethinking our relationship to the idea of property, of like real estate as property kind of thing. And then of course the collaboration aspect of it. And I'm thinking that there's probably yeah, so the question then becomes on if we have interest about who, you know, we have people who want to show up at the charrette, and would it be helpful to sort of divide out into what are the what are the interest groupings where we give people that opportunity of interacting? It's again not mutually exclusive. It wouldn't be the only thing that people do, but where they could spend more time kind of rubbing shoulders with other people who have a shared interest. So I don't know if I think that's just sort of thought. I guess I am opening up considerations for the charrette. So as we're thinking through the planning for the charrette, I'm going to frame this as we're just in the gathering considerations mode. So what are some things that we should keep in mind as we move forward on the planning? Things that we definitely want it to do, things that we want to avoid it doing, things we should be aware of as we move forward. And maybe if we can just do a quick round of considerations before 11:30, then that kind of fills the hopper for us to work with. How's that sound? Roland, over to you.
Sounds good to me. Do you want me just to say sounds good to me and pass on, or?
Well, do you have any considerations as we're from where we are now moving forward for planning the charrette? Are there, and the core team has already done this process, so we do have a long list of things that we've, you know, already brought up. So for the core team, if there's anything new, for people who are, you know, new to the process, anything is fair. But for Roland and Ronnie and April, it's anything new that's coming up.
Okay, well, having been being part of the core team, I'm just going to talk about what comes up as important for me is that the charrette, that there are ways of bringing people in to be active in the building of the Lifeboat Academy. So not just getting ideas, but actually getting people interested and wanting to do things, and that we have a clear pathway for them to be able to engage and to take stuff on. So that we're expanding, you know, the core team right now is just a few of us, and I'd like that to really get expanded. because our strengths can be woven together in such a way that our weaknesses become irrelevant, but we need a certain amount of people in order to have enough strength so that our weaknesses become irrelevant. So
Yeah.
over to Ronnie.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess this is a consideration I've already brought up, but it's very relevant. And just thinking about what are the guilds? What are the guilds or the working circles that we're inviting people into? Instead of what do you want to work on? It's like, here's the menu. Here are the options. From these options, where do you want to get involved? And here's what's needed. So having really specific ways that people can show up. Over to Barbara.
Thanks, Ronnie. That's a beautiful segue to what I might to a consideration I'd like to bring in. So specifically considerations for the charrette event itself, and also for the purpose of the charrette, which is looking at the year forward.
Yeah.
So to both of those is really clear packaging, articulation and packaging of where things are right now to help people on board quickly without a whole lot of time, which is the charrette side of that, which is like, what's the agenda? How much time is there actually on that weekend to do what wants to be done, and how to best use that time, which is kind of best use of resources. So pretty much from an operational perspective, where are we now? What needs to be done that we know needs to be done? Some kind of space for bringing in ideas that we don't know needs to be done from other people who want to be doing things, and who may not be, who likely are not as well, probably aren't as embedded in the truth of it as the core team, and some really concrete handles for people to take hold of, simple handles that are somehow stepped entry into meaningful involvement and adding value to this whole beautiful thing. I think that's all. Over to April.
Yeah, I was going to say some of the same thing. I think it's time to move with whatever it is that we're offering as a menu, to move into where are the areas for commitment, and to do it, I was going to say, in a phased way, so you can dip your toe, then you can dip 3 toes, and then you can start wading up to your ankles, to your knees. It's the same way that I get into the ocean here when I go ocean swimming. I gaze at the beauty for a while, and then I look around me, and then I, wiggle my way into it. But once I'm in it, I really like it. And it's not as cold as people tell you. So yeah, I think it's actually time to ask not only for interest, but for commitment. If you're serious about this, if this hits you in a serious way and you feel a connection to something about it, then are you willing? We invite you to actually commit. We would love if you do that. On to Pamela.
Yes, and as you're speaking, I both like the metaphor of the dipping into the water, but I'm also sort of feeling like, oh man, I am not in a commitment state at the moment. And I'm having to come to terms with that. I'm delighted, Barbara, to see you here and your really good energy and ideas. And I am looking forward to still being informed and in a loop. But I realize that I need to be clear to myself, and hence everyone else, that okay, I've reached a kind of personal limit, and I'm just going to let that be the way it is for now, and then see what happens when I replenish and can open up a bit.
Mhm.
But I love what you're doing, and I do find it very hard not to constantly try and make the various things that are around line up, connect in some fashion, and but we'll see what happens.
Mhm.
Also, I'm
Mhm.
aware it's 11:32. I'm going to take this opportunity to thank you very much.
Can pause for 1 second because I just want to
Yeah.
wrap up because or say that for me, I think that this idea of stepped engagement, but also bringing back self-interest rightly understood in terms of people. I don't want help. I don't want people to help me with my project. I want people to find out where there's mutual benefit, where there's something that you do naturally that we need, and something that we do naturally that can benefit you in that exchange. And so I want to make it not just, I want to make it normal for people to say, like you, Pamela, right now, the schedule's full and I'm keeping in the loop. And when there's something that pops up to me that feels like a yes, I will jump in, and no guilt until that happens, right? Or if that happens, it's, if, when, and that's part of, I think, being honestly relational is a lot of what we're talking about is how do we just maintain those channels so that when an opportunity pops up, people get a chance to say yes or no. And it's not drinking from a fire hose. You know what I mean? That it's like that we're not sending you everything that the core team gets. We're thinking, oh, where is there a good chance for Pamela to get involved, or people like Pamela? Let's send them a note, or reach out to people in particular. Anyhow, so I just want to say, I think thank you for sharing that, and I want to make this work for you because I know you represent lots and lots of people who are in that same space. And I think that's what we've found. Or I'm also riding the wave from this week of you don't force it, things happen when they happen, and then then you have this week where things line up, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, these people now can get together. We can have a conversation. I am looking forward to that conversation between Stephanie and Joey, and I think they'll get along really well. And I think and who knows, so anyhow, with that, I release you. And
Thank you guys very much, and
yeah,
have a good rest of your meeting. Have a good holiday season.
yeah, you too.
You
Happy holidays.
too.
Good hibernation.
See you soon.
And I need to release myself as well. Here
Yeah.
I am, like a bird, hopping off and flying.
Fly
Into the-
away.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
Nice to
Bye.
meet you, Barbara. Bye.
I may just keep this going while I'm doing the other things that I need to do. And if it's
Mhm.
okay, if I feel a need to jump in, that I'll just turn the video back on.
Sounds good.
Is that cool? Okay.
That's
It's
great.
good with me.
So lovely to be with you all today. Thank you.
Yeah. But
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, that was sweet. That was very, very sweet. Yeah, so I'm really in a operational mode these days. It's just how it is. It's okay. And so from that foundation, I'm looking at the questions that I have around this project and the viability of it. That's not exactly the right word. It'll do for now. Which land pretty much there in the land and securing the land, and hence my interest in the conversation with Stephanie and with around social mortgages.
Mhm.
What those things are, I've looked for some templates. I haven't found any.
We're making it
So
up.
I kind of thought that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
totally making it up. Well, and it's based on, if you're looking for templates, the closest thing would be something called a social impact bond. And those do exist. They're generally agreements between government and nonprofits. And and the way traditional, I mean, they're not traditional, but they exist, and they've existed for I think 20 years or so. And the way that they work, the example that I know of best, and I don't know it that well, but in Boston, there was a nonprofit that worked with highly at risk of recidivism youth. So youth that were involved in the justice system that had a very high likelihood of recidivism. And they had a new approach that they tested, that they were really confident worked well. And they went to, I can't remember whether it was state or local government, I think it may have been state, and basically said, if we can keep this many kids who are involved in the justice system from, reoffending for 10 years or whatever, the time was, that will save the government X millions of dollars in services that need to be provided. If we could have a portion of that up front, then we could, you give us, say it's going to, it costs $20 million to deal with the kids. If you give us $10 million, we'll do this program, we'll reduce your numbers, it'll save you 20. So it's an investment in the future. And if we don't do it, we'll pay you back the $10 million. If we can't actually hit our targets, you get the money back.
Okay.
And if we can hit our targets, we keep the money and you get the benefit.
You get the benefit. I
Yeah.
get it.
So
So
that's the model that we're working on. And we've just done it where, because it's the bet is, if we can keep everything running, then we'll pay you back the mortgage in the space of 10 years. If we can't, you sell the property and you get the price of the property back, but we don't have to pay. We're, instead of paying
interest.
interest, the
Yeah.
interest comes off in the social benefits. So
I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
yeah, it's so there isn't really a template. And actually, in terms of execution, the way we're thinking about it is, they would just be the shareholders. And basically we would purchase the shares back. There would be a separate, probably a memorandum of understanding that we would repurchase shares from the social mortgage holders at a certain rate. And probably the simplest way to do it is the share values are established like in 2024, and then every year there's a cost of living increment where the shares are worth a slightly higher amount each year. And then and that they have to be repaid on either on a repayment plan or by a certain time. And those would be details that would then, so the actual mortgage would be a separate memorandum of understanding with the mortgage holder, but otherwise they would look like a shareholder, or they would be a shareholder.
Okay. I was thinking of it in terms of a mortgage which is held by a financial entity of some kind, but I couldn't get past that because the actual person would be the one holding the mortgage.
Yeah.
And Lifeboat Academy would be the entity getting the mortgage.
Yeah.
So that I was trying to get my head through, like, to navigate how that might look. So it's not actually a mortgage. It's more of it's relational. It's
relational. The way that it's a mortgage is that the land is collateral. So that's
right.
The mortgage part of it is just that the land, if anything goes wrong, if we can't repay the money, then the land is sold and they get the money back that way. So they're sort of made whole. And that's what I'm mostly hoping that it's just such a safe bet for a person to invest in, for potential mortgage loaner or whatever. That it's backed by the land. And so anyhow, writing up that agreement, we don't have language for that, but like I said, I'm seeing it as sort of a separate memorandum of understanding with the shareholders.
How many social mortgage holders do you envision?
In an ideal world, one, right? Just for simplicity.
Okay, that lands it into more intelligence. Like, for me, that I can see the shape of it. If we're talking about one, maybe two, because the risks, like, they accelerate if there's a handful of them even,
Yeah.
and something goes sideways, and if it goes sideways in the perspective of one of them but not the other four or five,
Well,
like,
and
how do you navigate all that, like finding the language for that?
and in part, that's where the 10-year, so part of the language that I'm trying to use is what we are funding is a 10-year research project. It's a 10-year experiment. And the social mortgage is taking on the experiment. So in terms of like, it shouldn't be possible that somebody thinks it's going sideways and somebody else thinks it isn't, because we're going to have more, like, we have our social benefits listed by category,
Mhm.
and we can establish targets for them. Like, we can have, and that's just like with the social impact bond idea.
Yeah.
There's a concrete performance element that comes
Yes.
with it. And it also
Okay.
holds the project. Like, for me, this is a mutual benefit. It's not a concession. It's mutually beneficial to the academy to say, these are the clear material things that we are attempting to
Mhm.
do.
Mhm. It's
yeah.
the value. That's the value right
What's
there.
the outcome? What's it look like?
Yeah, that is the value. So for me, this is a shift in thinking about this. I was considering social mortgages as a means of fundraising, like, but a bunch, like many people. So I could go to this person, I could go to that person. They would contribute 50,000 or 500,000 or whatever, but it would still be a composite towards the end goal of securing the land.
Ronnie,
This
you
is
want to jump?
different. This
Yeah.
is different. Yeah.
It looks
Well,
like
and that's
Ronnie, you
actually
wanted.
kind of how we were approaching it before. So before the social mortgage holder, we were also looking for timeshare croppers, which would be a bunch of different people who are all investing different amounts of money to get
Mhm.
access to the land for different amounts of time, like a timeshare.
Mhm.
And we were in parallel to that, we were looking for social mortgage holders and saying we wanted some combination. But then we realized the social mortgage holders actually make the whole project possible, because
Mhm.
the sooner we secure the land, the sooner we can start actually selling shares in the project. So first, it's one or two, ideally, social mortgage holders help us buy the land, and then we can sell shares to the timeshare croppers, which means the social mortgage holders are getting paid back more quickly. So it's really more efficient and more streamlined and easier for everyone if we get the social mortgage first.
Yeah.
And also with the social mortgage having a 10-year repayment period, that means we have 10 years to sell all the timeshares rather than let's scramble and try and sell as many as possible in a year, which is what you're talking about. It's just we figured out the order of things that will make the most sense. So
Totally. Yeah.
I understand now. Yeah, thank you for this. This is really
And
useful.
there's also, so there's social mortgage holders, and there's also what we're calling fair share sponsors. And the difference, the only yeah, what Ronnie was saying, we realized if we get a social mortgage holder who says, I'm willing to back it, but you need to buy me out eventually. There are also what we're calling fair share sponsors, who are people who say, I will take an investment and I'm holding the investment to make the space available for other people on the property.
Mhm.
So they're sort of like a social mortgage holder, but without a desire to be bought out. They want to keep the shares, as long as they want to keep the shares. And all of the shares are tradable. So a fair share sponsor could choose to sell their shares at some point, but anyhow, so that also, even, it's not just the timeshare croppers. We could continue to go to, like, we keep thinking about like Kwantlen has a regenerative agriculture program, and we could go to Kwantlen and say, if you buy, the equivalent, you invest $160,000, you'll get a spot guaranteed for one of your students whenever.
Oh,
You-
good idea.
Yeah. So
Very
that,
excellent. Yeah,
so
yeah,
you
yeah.
can actually, they can earmark it. They can say, we're going to reserve a spot for our students, or, half time or whatever.
Yeah.
But then the social mortgage holder gives us the time to
Yeah.
negotiate all of those independent one-off, what are you willing to contribute?
So the social mortgage holder or holders, if there's a couple, is like an underwriter. Like
Yeah.
they're the
Yeah.
big, they're the sugar daddy,
Yep.
Yeah.
basically. And then the timeshare sponsors are similar and an easier in, smaller bites.
Yep.
Smaller packages.
Yep.
Okay. I was
Yeah,
trying to
down
figure out how
to-
I could
down
sell
to-
this,
yeah,
like how I
down
could
to
tell
one-
people about it.
We wanted to make it, you
Yeah.
could be a fair share sponsor with one share, so $1,600.
Yeah.
And anyone could, not anyone, but like there's a large segment of the population that we wanted to be able to say, you could sponsor a share,
Yeah.
and it could go, if you could
Okay.
designate all that kind of stuff. So
Okay. This I see the intelligence of it now. And then the actual development, as you've pointed to earlier, the development of the actual the legal entity is next step. That's what
Yeah.
has to happen.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys are getting some traction on that.
yeah, I think
And
we
so-
may be, I think we're almost ready to file for, we're dotting a couple I's, crossing a few T's, maybe getting a legal review, and I think we can do it.
So cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So that will be the structure then that will support all of these potentialities.
Mhm. I'm
Okay.
really excited about the possibility of becoming apparently, so the community contribution company has existed for quite a while, and there's 2 of them in Canada, I think. John was saying there's a very, very small, that might be 2 in BC.
Wow.
But and this is total ego. This is total ego. I just want to be
Sure.
able to say, oh yeah, we have a community contribution company. Don't you know? Haven't you heard of them?
We're the
Well,
third one.
We're the third one
ever.
in Canada.
And you were saying earlier that is it going to go that way, or do you think it'll go more towards the B Corp?
We have to look at, basically my short takeaway is the way John described it is there's this continuum from a simple limited liability corporation, which has very little restrictions on what you do or how you do it, anything like that, all the way up to like the CCC, the triple C. And at each step, there's like another burden added to the structure. So, it has to do with limitations on how profits can be reinvested. Like at a certain point, you can only, I think with a community contribution company, you can only return 40% of profits to shareholders. 60% or more has to go back towards mission. There's restrictions on what happens to assets or property in the event of dissolution. And there's a couple other restrictions, but all of the restrictions that the CCC has, we want. Like, we don't want to have an easy dissolution of the company. We don't want stakeholders to get profits. We want the profits to be reinvested. So it's really, I think it's looking at the community contribution company and saying, can we live with these restrictions? Are there any restrictions here that are overly troubling to us? But I think we want them. It actually is in the spirit of what we're trying to do, that it kind of holds us to the mission, holds all future actors who get involved, it holds them to the mission very firmly. So I think we may end up going with the CCC.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, of course, I would be curious about any external constraints that might limit the capacity or the functionality of what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Like in the realm of legalities, in the realm of
Yeah.
access to capital, different things like that.
Yeah.
real world, kind of external real world stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping. I had internet problems when at the start of the meeting when John was going through the different steps, but I saw Becca was taking notes, and we have a finance meeting at 2 o'clock today. So I'm hoping that I can get a copy of her notes,
Yeah.
because he laid out all of those, like at this level, at this level, at this level, this is what happens.
Right.
And yeah, it was such a, it was just, we had all these questions and we sat down, and within like 10 minutes, John had explained it in a way where it's like, oh, it's
Yeah.
like there's a grid, there's just a grid.
Yeah.
And if you want this, if you want that, then, this is the
Yeah.
best one. So
I love that. That's
yeah.
great. That's really, really great. Well, thanks a lot, you guys, for giving me some of your time today to get to clarity on that. I really appreciate it.
Well, this
Um,
is and again, this is mutually beneficial, because I'm thinking this conversation around the social mortgage is definitely a video that we want separate.
Yeah.
Where we can just
Mhm.
point to it and say, if you're curious about a social mortgage, this is what we're talking about.
mhm,
Yeah, fantastic.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good then.
Great.
Till
Awesome.
next
Anything
time.
else? I think are we good to go? Ronnie, are you feeling good about things?
Yep. Yep.
All
Great to
righty.
see you, Barbara. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is exciting.
Reciprocated, mutually so. I look forward to next info around the charrette dates.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm holding both of them. There's pressure on both of them, but I'm
Yeah.
holding them both, and
Totally.
looking forward to that process a great deal.
Fantastic.
Okay, enjoy your time. Oh, I have one question.
Mhm.
Is there direct sun on you guys at the Pender farm now, or is it
in
blocked?
the house? The house is in the forest.
But in terms of the angle of the sun,
Yeah, we
Is it-
get the
are you
fields.
getting sun? Are you
The
getting
fields
sun?
are getting sun.
The fields
yeah.
are getting sun.
Yeah, when the clouds part.
Well, that one, of course, that one. Yeah, just
But
I'm just-
we're there's sunlight on. We actually, Roland and I went walking yesterday looking for a Christmas tree, and we were walking out in the sunshine. It was
Yay.
just a gorgeous, beautiful day, and we were
Excellent.
in the sun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's just a little cycle check-in from me.
Mhm.
Seasonal
Yeah.
seasonal cycle.
Well, and
what it
at,
looks like there when.
At High Grove, we did not at this time of year, because
Mhm.
the field, the main hill was to the south, and the fields at this time of year, there was a tiny little corner for like a
Ah,
half an hour would get some sunlight, but the fields were in shadow the whole, probably about a month,
yeah.
maybe 6 weeks.
So here at the pivot point, because this is your first
This
winter
is our
solstice.
first winter. Yeah. We're not even
Right.
here a year yet. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that too.
mhm.
Okay,
All right.
enjoy it all.
Bye.
Bye,
Till we
everyone.
meet again. Bye bye.